Jeff Joerres is Chief Executive of the rechristened Manpower Group. He joins me live now from New York. Jeff, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. So as we've been saying, it's a pretty big week for jobs data in the US. What are your expectations? What's it going to tell us about the state of the labor market there?
Well, I mean, I think if we look at the last 2 or 3 months, when we look at some of that job data, what we're seeing is that there's a little bit of sawtoothing, but for the most part, there's more positive news than negative news. And I think when we look at the report today, we have to be a little cautious because that report sometimes doesn't line up with what we would be seeing on Friday. But what we're hearing from our clients, and this is not a U.S. story at all, though U.S. is part of it, but Western Europe and U.S. is that for the most part, they're still hiring, but there's still this overhang of caution, and that caution and chaos is creating a different kind of environment for the hiring right now.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, Jeff, I mean, when you look at the overall rate of unemployment, it's still pretty high. And certainly this is something that U.S. officials have expressed a great deal of concern about.
Right. I mean, when we look at all of the chaos that's happening in the world and the forces that keep happening in the world, it really gives us the insight that says, you know what, this labor market is going to be different. Companies and communities and governments have to act differently. And when you look at how they're acting differently, they're being more cautious, they're being more specific. And as a result, you're not going to see the labor numbers drive down as fast. And when we look at Manpower Group, what we do is we really try to take that and say, what kind of solutions and work models? It might be India, Russia, the U.S. or the U.K. And all of that complexity is creating almost a slowdown in hiring across the world.
Why is there such a glacial pace to the decline of unemployment in the U.S.?
I think a big part of it is that companies are so exact in what they need for demand and hiring. So with the increased sophistication of systems, what they have the ability to do is instead of hiring in anticipation of demand for their product, they're actually doing it the other way and hiring only after the demand. So this whole notion of just-in-time manufacturing and supply chain is actually now affecting the talent chain associated with it. Couple that with the fact that they get hero badges every time they're a little bit under their expenses, which includes payroll, and you've got a very slow labor market.
I mean, you have offices in more than 80 countries. You're dealing with 400,000 clients each year. Tell me a little bit more about the global labor market outlook.
Well, you know, clearly there's a two-speed labor market that's going on, and then, of course, within labor markets, we like to call it a bifurcation as well. So I was just in China 2 weeks ago. China is a different market, and India is a different market. Vietnam, what we're seeing even in places like Thailand and Hong Kong, they are clearly seeing, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15, 20% wage increases, very high demand, and actually we're seeing the government in China try to slow that down. You compare that to Western Europe or the U.S., where you have much more mature markets and you're losing a bit of your middle class, which is where your demand is from. You're getting this slight demand with a picky buyer, meaning the company, and as a result, what you're getting is a very slow labor market in the mature markets, kind of the OECD markets, and a rapid, you know, shoot 'em up kind of, you know, Western-style hiring happening in the East.
Yeah, there you go. A huge discrepancy there. Great to talk to you about these trends. Jeff Joerres of Manpower, come on the show again.